Check, check, check. I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes to get in here. So let's run this countdown. Welcome, everybody. I am your Jamaican Queen, Miss Y. You are tuned into How I See It TV, and this is. Let me make this turn. This is How I See It Live. One second, y'all. I gotta make this turn. Put my indicator on. Yes, I got a filter light. Lucky me. Got a filter light, y'all. Okay. This is How I See It Live, y'all. And I'm on my way to work, so it's a quickie. This is a quick live. I only have two topics on the docket. But I don't know if anybody is in South Florida and you are going to Melody Cherie's speaking engagement this month. I don't remember what date it is. I gotta go back to some of Mel's previous posts to see if I can find out where to go get the tickets to go to this event. I know I sent it to somebody via text message, so I might have to go through my text messages to see where to get the tickets. But I know it's basically in my backyard. This event that Melody has down here in this upcoming event that Melody Cherie has down here in South Florida. It's basically in my backyard. So I might go. The plan is to go. So let's let's see. But if you are in South Florida or you're in Miami, West Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, any of those areas, and you plan to attend this event, just let me know so that we can meet in person, so that we probably can all sit together and enjoy this event together, okay? All right, so let me get into it because I'm about to pull up at my job. As always, please remember to like, share, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Twitter now called X at How I See It, and on TikTok at How I See It TV. So, first things first, y'all, is this foolishness right here. This foolishness right here. Miss Kenya Summermore and the low key begging that she's doing. I don't understand it. Kenya, you are the what? Miss, the second black Miss USA. Who was the first one? I don't remember the name of the first lady that won that pageant, but I know Kenya Moore is the second. Girl, you made history. You made history. And not only were you the second black woman to win it, but you were, I think, the first dark skinned beauty to win that pageant. And that's what made it even more historical. You were in some of the 90s top sitcoms. You were the leading lady in a lot of our favorite, 90s R&B or 90s rap music videos, right? And I'm talking like I'm that old. But yeah, I was born in the 90s. But we've heard the stories. I really didn't know a lot about Kenya Moore, honestly, because as y'all know, I'm from Jamaica. I wasn't following. I think I was 3 when Kenya won, because she won what, in 1993, I think. So I was like 3 years old. So I didn't really care. I mean, we cared about our pageant queens, like, Lisa Hanna and those girls. But at the end of the day, Kenya, you made history, and you were that girl. You were that girl. I don't understand, Kenya, why you are out here begging, low key begging, to be back on a reality TV show. I mean, justice for what? You did something dirty. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you like Kenya, you don't like Kenya. At the end of the day, what she did was not okay. It was not okay. And I get her justification. I get her justification. Brit was wrong. And I feel like both of them should have been suspended from filming. It should have been, we're suspending Brit because she made a threat. Um, she threatened to use a pow pow on somebody on the cast, and we cannot have that. But also, Kenya, you took it too low because you showed intimate images of this lady. However, y'all, I was listening to a lawyer last night, and they were talking about, what Kenya did, and they were talking about whether or not it would constitute um revenge P. And what the lawyer was saying about it is two things. One, it is actual harassment to show a group of people, that is actual harassment to show a group of people um actual images of anything, anyone, without their consent. I didn't know this, but it makes sense, because if I'm at work and somebody pushes a phone in my face and says, "Look at this dingaling," and I did not want to see the dingaling, or if somebody pushes a phone in my face and says, "Look at my coochie cat in this picture," and I did not want to see their coochie cat, then I can understand that being sexual harassment, because what are we doing? Why are you showing me this? So that's what the lawyer said. Kenya doing that so publicly without the consent of her guests, that constitute sexual harassment, according to this lawyer. And then what the lawyer says about Kenya showing, those intimate images of Brit is, one, if these images were already public and Brit had already consented to these images being public, then Kenya showing these images publicly would not constitute um revenge P. So let me repeat that, because I'm not a lawyer. I'm just repeating what this lawyer said. What she said was, if Britt Edie already gave consent for these images to be in the public domain, because what Kenya said is she found these pictures in the public domain. They were already online. Now, y'all, we're not looking for Britt Edie. We're not on these websites looking for any explicit images of Britt Edie. So we would know this, right? But Kenya said these images were already online. So this is why she's saying that it's not revenge P, because they were already out there. But what the lawyer says is, if Britt Edie already gave permission, she already gave her consent for these images to be online, then what Kenya did would not be revenge P. However, if the images that Kenya found were online without Britt Edie's consent, meaning Brit knew that these pictures were floating around online. She's been trying to, she's been calling the different websites, trying to get the pictures down or the videos down, because somebody uploaded them without her consent. Then what Kenya did would constitute as revenge P, because Brit Edie did not give whoever posted the pictures to begin with. They did not have Brit Edie's consent to post those pictures. Wherever they posted it online, wherever Kenya found them. If Brit didn't give her consent for those pictures to be up, Kenya redistributing them by presenting them at her salon launch, that would be considered as revenge P. So Kenya girl, I hope I hope that for your sake, because you said you already 400,000 in the hole trying to launch this salon and trying to get people in the door, right? So I hope for your sake, those pictures that you found of Brit Edie, those were pictures that she consented to being online. Because if she did not consent to those pictures being online and then you took them off whatever website y'all found them and then you were showing them to everybody in your spa launch, then girl, you might be on the hook for a revenge P case. So girl, you're out here talking about justice for Kenya. You might have taken things to hell's throne and have gotten yourself a lawsuit. I'm just saying. And perhaps that is why Bravo decided not to film with you anymore. Because if you could, I think that if Kenya could have proved to Bravo that Brit was out here consenting to these pictures being online or whatever, then they would have probably kept her on. But because Kenya or maybe Brit Edie said, these pictures have been online against my will. I never consented to these pictures being in the public domain, and I'm going to sue, blah, 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 blah. That is why they got Kenya up out of there. So let me repeat. It wouldn't be considered revenge P if Brit Edie consented to these images being available in the public domain. So she had already consented to having these pictures out there, and Kenya went and found it and decided she was going to show people. That's not revenge P. However, if Brit Edie never consented to those pictures being posted online anywhere, and she's been trying her best to scrub the internet off those pictures, and then Kenya went, pulled the pictures, and then was showing them in her spa, that could be considered revenge P. So let's see how this continues. But Kenya, if you claim that you are that chick, been that chick, always gonna be that chick, then you shouldn't be out here begging to be on reality TV, babe. Kenya, you should have been a recurring a recurring cast member on somebody's hit series on a network TV. You should have been a regular over there on Grey's Anatomy or something. This new black soap opera that's out here, what's it called, Beyond the Gates, you should have been casted for that. You should have been casted for that, girl. You should have been Danny. You should have been the lead. I'm just saying, you've been in this entertainment business for so long. You've been in this entertainment business for so long, Kenya, and one of your greatest accomplishments outside of the crown that you won is you've been on reality TV. You've been on this show for almost 16 years that it's been on. And you're out here talking about justice for Kenya because what? You want your spot back on reality TV. Now you're calling out Andy and saying, doing the same things that Nene did. You're out here doing now. And for me, that just says, I don't think you're going to be coming back. Because once you cross into the web of you're going to start talking negatively about your boss, the man who's writing the checks, the door probably is going to be closed, Kenya. And we were hopeful that you would get an opportunity to go to the reunion to give an apology or to state your mindset or whatever. But at this point, you're out here talking too much, and I don't think you're even going to get that opportunity. Britt Edie next Sunday is going to be crying, shedding her crocodile tears, milking this, situation with you for all it's worth, playing the victim while minimizing the fact that she did send out threats with a weapon. Stop talking so much, Kenya. It's probably time for you to focus on other things. Candy has your back. I don't know. Ask Candy if the next time she's producing a movie, if you can come and audition to be, one of the leads in the movie, or if she's producing another Broadway film. I don't know if you can do Broadway, Kenya, because you can't really sing. But I'm just saying, maybe her next Broadway production, she'll cast you for it. But Kenya, your foundation should be so solid in this entertainment industry that you shouldn't even need to be on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't understand why you out here dry begging so hard. It's irritated me because I feel like you're better than this. You were better than going solo. You could have left it at insurance fraud hoe. You could have left it at that. But you decided to show this woman with a pee in her mouth, and this is where we are. This is where we are, Kenya. There's no justice. You did something wrong. You got to own it. It was wrong. And the thing is, if you had given the production the time to fix it, you wouldn't have needed to stoop this low, because obviously they were getting Brit to fix it. When she was talking to Portia, she was talking to Shamia, and she came to your event with flowers to apologize. That was the HR way of fixing it. Now they should have kicked her off the show, but let me tell you how you'd have gotten her kicked off the show, Kenya, by getting everybody else to ice her out. You have seniority, Kenya. You could have been like, I'm not filming with her, never gonna film with her. If she walks up in my scene, I'm walking out. And you know what? You'd have probably had Shamia and Portia and Cynthia and Drew following suit. You remember, I don't know if y'all watch Basketball Wives and remember how they did Brandy, when Brandy popped up in Miami, and Evelyn, Shawnee, and Tammy, they all got up from the table and walked outside, and they gave her the cold shoulder. They weren't even talking to her. That's how Kenya should have played this. She should have escorted Britt out of her event. She could have still shown the posters of the, insurance fraud and what the alleged insurance fraud and whatnot, not shown the picture of her with a pee in her mouth, and then continue the rest of the season by letting producers know, I am not filming with her. And I'm going to get everybody on my side to the point where Brit is basically does not have anybody to film with. That's how you should have played it, Kenya. But you went low. I felt like you too also wanted a moment. You felt like this was going to just be so iconic, and it was going to go down in the reality TV, Real Housewives history book as being just so iconic and so good, and everybody was going to want to do it too. But it didn't work that way, babe. It didn't work that way. And now Brit is still on the show and you're out. And now you out here dry begging to be on reality TV show. Miss Kenya Summer Moore out here begging to be on reality TV. And I get it. The Real Housewives, they pay big bucks. They pay big bucks. And you probably needed those coins. You probably needed those coins to, help, I don't know, help buffer whatever you needed it to buffer for your salon. Because the way you're putting it, you're not making any money over there. So maybe in order to keep the lights on and to continue to pay the stylists that are there, you needed these checks. And from what I heard Jessie Wu say, when she was on Love and Hip Hop, they got paid per episode. So You've been in what, Kenya? Like 5 episodes, 6 episodes? What episode are we at now? I don't even know. Somebody drop it in the comments. We're probably at episode 6. And now you're not gonna be in anymore. So you literally got paid for what, 6 episodes? That doesn't sound like a lot of money if we're looking at a 15 episode season or a 16 episode season. That's a little bit of money that you got paid this season then, Kenya. So I get why you're mad. It's not even about you wanting justice. It's about you wanting money, in my opinion. But it's sad. You dropped yourself into this hole because you wanted to be a little bit vindictive. You wanted to be a little bit petty, but you took petty too far. And this is why, y'all, it's not always good. It's not always a good thing to, when they go low, you take it to hell. It's not always a good thing, because sometimes you taking it to hell means that you get in more trouble than the person that went low with you. And you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be a Kenya Moore. Good morning, Miss CC. Now, the next thing on my docket, because this live has gone too long, is this. Now, somebody says, now, Simone, would it be okay if Quad hung out with Cecil's mistress, or even better, invited her on the show to film? I want to know. Hashtag married to medicine. And Heavenly responded, no, none of us would be okay with that. Now, let's be clear, y'all. Sweet Tea was not Greg's mistress. She was not somebody that Greg was creeping around with while he was married to Quad. So when people try to make that comparison and try to drag Tammy into it and try to drag Cecil's relationship with Tammy, I thought both Cecil and Simone said that it wasn't a matter of him having physical, intimate relationship with this woman. This woman wasn't his mistress. This woman was a close friend that his wife even went to London with by themselves. It's just that Simone got to a point where she got uncomfortable with that friendship. And I honestly felt like a logical conversation between Cecil, Tammy, and Simone could have fixed all of that. But I get it. You're a woman, you getting your feelings. Your husband's best friend, who is a woman, calls him and says, I'm on the side of the road, my tires fell off, and he's jumping out of the bed to go help her. And you start thinking, wait a minute, is this more than a friendship? So I get that. But they keep saying that this woman was Cecil's mistress, and she wasn't. She was just his good friend, and Simone just got to a point where she didn't like the friendship anymore. When Cecil went on Carlos King's interview with Eugene, Cecil said Cecil said that Simone and Tammy, they went to the UK together by themselves. Simone was hanging out with Tammy. They were cool, which is why Cecil didn't feel like there was anything wrong with his friendship. Because if your wife and your BFF are now hanging out together without you, as a man, I would be like, okay, they like each other. There ain't nothing wrong. And if you're a man who knows that you're not cheating on your wife with this person, and now your friend and your wife are cool, and then all of a sudden your wife is uncomfortable with the friendship, I can get the confusion, but I don't like this narrative of them trying to paint Cecil's and Tammy's relationship as something intimate when everybody said that that wasn't what it is. And they're trying to compare that to the Quad G and Sweet Tea thing, but Sweet Tea wasn't a mistress. Quad didn't know this woman. Greg was already divorced for 4 or 5 years before he met Sweet Tea. That marriage was done. And I didn't have enough time this morning to go down Cecil's timeline, go down Curtis's timeline, go down Dr. G's timeline, and show y'all pictures of all these people hanging out after Dr. G and Quad got divorced. The fact is, Quad was not around this friend group outside of filming. Dr. G was still very much a part of the friend group even after he left the show. And word on the street is Purveyors of Pop never wanted Dr. G to leave the show. He made the conscious decision that he didn't want to continue because the divorce between him and Quad was so contentious and he didn't want to get into the mix of that on the show. Word on the street. Go down to Lipstick Alley. They got the tea. Okay? So it wasn't that he couldn't have been on the continued on the show. He didn't want to, allegedly, according to Lipstick Alley. Right? The reason why Quad and Dr. G's paths never crossed after they got divorced was because Quad was never around the group outside of filming. Why do you think that Sweet Tea could have been at Jackie's 50 Shades of Pink event twice and Quad was never there? These are the questions I want people to ask themselves. The first time Sweet Tea met Dr. Jackie was at her charity event. This was when her and Dr. G were just boyfriend and girlfriend, and she was traveling from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta to see him. And then she went to the event a second time before they got engaged. And and this is where Jackie and Heavenly were trying to tell her, like, look, you should come on the show, blah, 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 blah. Again, Quad wasn't there. Heavenly even said it. Like, when the girl came to Jackie's event, she hid and took a picture of her and sent it to Quad. Why would you need to hide and take a picture? Why would you need to hide and take a picture of Sweet Tea if Quad was around? Quad should have been at Jackie's 50 Shade of Pink event. Curtis and Dr. G been on so many golfing trips long after the divorce. So Simone didn't lie. Simone's issues with Quad is whatever it is. But Simone didn't lie when she said Greg was still very much still their friend after their divorce. Quad's issue is Greg being on the show. It can't be Greg being a part of the friend group because he was still a part of the friend group. Good morning, beautiful bush. He was still part of the friend group. That never changed. Quad would have her fans think, Quad would have her fans think that, oh, when Greg and I divorced, nobody was talking to him. That's not true. You can go to Instagram right now and you can see all the times Greg and Curtis were golfing together. Greg and Cecil were out together. They went on a whole golf trip together. Greg and what's his face, Scott, are friends. Greg and Damon, they had a working relationship and I guess a friendship until, Heavenly started running him out too much and then that got messed up. Sweetie even shared last season that Heavenly was Dr. G's dentist. And so when she moved to Atlanta, Heavenly became her dentist. But when Heavenly started to disrespect Sweet Tea on YouTube last season, they both stopped going to Heavenly. So I need Quad to explain to me how Greg was still so integrated in all these people's lives, but yet she's sitting on the reunion acting like they only became friends with him to spite her. Girl, you weren't around. You weren't around. You were hanging out with Yandy and Rashida and Candy and Portia. Those are the people you were hanging out with. So to Simone's point, you were hanging out with us, but we were hanging out with Greg. It is what it is. You can't be mad. I'm sorry, Quad, you can't be mad at that. You can't want people to uphold the standard of friendship with you that you are not upholding yourself. You can't say, I'm not going to be around this group unless we're filming for Married to Medicine, but y'all can't hang out with who y'all want to hang out with outside of filming. The reason it was easy to reintegrate Sweet Tea and Dr. G back into the show is because that connection was still there. the connection was still there. And that wasn't Sweet T's fault. That wasn't Simone's fault. Heavenly was the one pushing for G and Sweet Tea to come on the show. So while Quad is yelling at Simone that, oh, it was wrong for y'all to bring them in the group, it wasn't Simone. It wasn't Simone that did it. It was Heavenly. So the blame should stay at Heavenly's feet. But at the end of the day, Quad, you weren't around these people. You weren't around the group. So they have the freedom to hang out with whoever is, as Simone said, if you're not effing with us, we have the right to pick whoever we want to F with. And the fact is, we never stopped being friends with Dr. G after the divorce. And of course, if he finds himself a new woman and he's moving on with his life, we're going to become friends with that new person. That's how it works in a friend group. The second somebody gets a girlfriend, the second somebody's getting married, you introduce your new partner to your friend group. And if your friend group has, women in it, then your wife is going to become friends with those wives or with those girlfriends, and the group is just going to get bigger. So this narrative of now, Simone, would it be okay if Quad hung out with Cecil's mistress? That's different. Cecil's mistress was never friends with anybody in the group. That's the difference here. And the lady wasn't even his mistress. It was his friend. Simone just eventually got to a point where she had a problem with the friendship. Simone never said this man cheated on her. This man never said that he cheated on his wife. It was just the friendship that he had with Tammy became problematic in his marriage, and he had to let the friendship go. Now, that might have been a lie. Maybe there was some inappropriate things going on in that friendship. Maybe. I don't know. But the way they put it on that reunion, I don't remember what reunion it was. I think it was season 5 reunion. And how Curtis put it in his interview with Carlos, it was simply a friendship that Simone no longer wanted him to have. That was it. So if Quad brought that woman around, that would be her being spiteful on purpose. I don't look at these people continuing to have a friendship with Dr. G as them being spiteful. They knew him before they knew Quad. They knew him before they knew Quad. Quad became friends with this group by virtue of her marrying a doctor. That's how she got integrated into this group of doctors that already knew Gregory before they knew her. So it's like to sit around and say, oh, y'all are unfair and da 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 da. It makes no sense, Quad. Especially if you weren't hanging around with these people. Again, if you were hanging out with them, you'd have met Sweetie in person at Jackie's events twice. Yours and Greg's paths would have crossed several times at Simone's parties, at Cecil's parties. Girl, the fact is you weren't hanging around with these people, so you really wouldn't have known that they had continued to have these strong connections still to Dr. G. That's all I'm saying. You said what? Beautiful ish. You said, so when Heaven is gonna let us meet her stepchildren? Child, allegedly. Y'all, I'm late for work. Let me get out of this car. Any day my boss finds my YouTube and decides that she is going to start listening in the mornings to see exactly where I'm at is gonna start being a problem. But I'm late for work, y'all. I got to go. But thank y'all for tuning in. Please remember to like this video, share the link to my channel if you feel like the content needs some more crowd, subscribe if you have not done so as yet. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter now called X at How I See It, and on TikTok at How I See It TV. I'm sure I will see y'all somewhere in these YouTube streets. So walk good. Bye.